The autumn breeze whispered through the stone archways of Hamilton University, carrying with it the low murmur of student chatter, the click of boots on pavement, and the occasional burst of laughter. Among the crowd of confident faces and polished smiles walked a lone figure, head down, hands stuffed into the pockets of a worn hoodie. Jace Walker moved like a shadow, present but unnoticed, quiet but oddly heavy, as if dragging unseen weight behind him. He had only been on campus for 3 days, but people had already formed opinions. Some called him the mute freshman. Others claimed he was just another dropout waiting to happen. No one knew where he'd transferred from. He rarely spoke, never smiled, and made no effort to fit in. His schedule was full of general electives, intro to philosophy, American history, physics 101. He sat in the back of every lecture hall, hood up, eyes locked forward. Never on his phone, never distracted. Just silent. That silence annoyed Chase Whitman, the son of a real estate mogul, and the loudest presence in any room. Chase was used to being the center of attention. Captain of the campus lacrosse team, vice president of Delta Sigma, and self-proclaimed king of Hamilton's freshman class, he believed the social hierarchy needed to be maintained. To him, Jace was a crack in the system, an unregistered variable, and Chase hated variables. It started small, as it always did. During a history lecture, Chase strolled past Jace's desk and accidentally knocked his notebook to the floor. Jace didn't even blink, just picked it up and resumed writing. Later that day, in the cafeteria, Chase's friend Logan called out loud enough for everyone to hear, "Yo, you forget how to use a fork in the hood, man." Jace didn't respond. He just stood, dumped his tray, and left without a word. Wordless. Reactions were dangerous. Bullies thrived on noise, pleas, anger, fear. Jace gave them none. That night, in the dorm lounge, Chase made a show of telling a story about the time a guy from the ghetto tried to act tough and cried in a fight. His eyes flicked to Jace, seated alone on the worn couch with a copy of Meditations in his lap. He didn't look up. Chase grinned and kept talking louder. But beneath the bravado, something crawled at Chase's gut. He'd mocked dozens of students before, but this one unsettled him. It wasn't just the silence. It was the stillness. The way Jace watched people, not timidly, not angrily, but with an eerie kind of calm, like he was reading every move, every word, and filing it away. By the 3rd day, Jace had become something of a rumor. Some claimed he was ex-military. Others said he had a record. No one could prove anything, and Jace certainly wasn't telling them. The only faculty member who ever got more than a nod from him was Mr. Alvarez, the head of campus security, AT, former Marine who had noticed the way Jace moved, the way he scanned entrances and exits out of habit. "You carry yourself like someone who's seen things," Alvarez had said once, passing him near the rec center. Jace had simply replied, "Not proud of it." That was the only sentence anyone had heard him say all week. Friday arrived with a chill in the air and tension in the halls. A new flyer appeared around campus, an invite-only frat party at Delta Sigma. Loud music, cheap beer, and chaos promised. Jace received no invite, of course, but Chase had plans. That morning, in the hallway between classes, Chase made his move. He stood directly in Jace's path, arms folded, flanked by his crew. Students nearby paused, sensing something about to unfold. "Hey, tough guy," Chase said with a grin. "You got a name or do you just grunt and vanish?" Jace met his eyes for the first time. No fear, no hate, just that unnerving stillness. "Jace," he said quietly. Then he walked past him, brushing Chase's shoulder without breaking stride. Chase didn't smile this time. He just watched him go. Rain misted the campus as Saturday morning rolled in, soaking the concrete and giving everything a cold, steel-gray hue. The previous day's tension still lingered in the air like static before a storm. Students whispered about the hallway encounter, but most dismissed it as nothing. Just another frat boy flexing for attention. Just another loner refusing to play along. But Chase wasn't laughing. He replayed that moment in his head over and over. The eye contact, the voice, the way Jace had brushed his shoulder like he was the one in control. It gnawed at him. No stutter, no flinch, not even a change in tone. Just a single word. Jace. Delivered like a warning. Cold. Clean. Final. That night, Delta Sigma's house pulsed with music and lights. The living room was packed with half-drunk students waving red plastic cups, dancing, laughing too loud. Everything. Chase needed to drown the unease. But even as he laughed and flirted and clinked glasses, his eyes drifted to the front door every few minutes, as if expecting Jace to show up uninvited. He didn't. Not that night. Sunday came and went without incident. Jace stuck to his pattern. Early classes, silent study sessions in the library, long walks through the campus gardens with earbuds in. But people had started noticing him more. A few students tried to talk to him, mostly out of curiosity, but got nowhere. A girl from his philosophy class smiled at him near the vending machines. He nodded once and walked away. It wasn't rudeness, it was something colder, detached, but deliberate. Monday afternoon, Chase finally snapped. After practice, he stormed into the campus lounge where Jace sat reading at his usual corner spot. No music, no laptop, just a battered copy of The Art of War. Chase marched up and yanked the book from his hands. "You think you're better than everyone?" he demanded. "You walk around here like a ghost, like none of us matter." Jace looked up, eyes sharp, still calm. "I don't think anything," he said. "I just don't need the noise." That only made it worse. Logan laughed awkwardly behind Chase, but it sounded forced. A few students nearby froze, unsure whether to intervene or enjoy the show. Tension crackled. Chase dropped the book at Jace's feet and sneered. "You gonna pick that up, or are your hands only good for your pockets?" Jace didn't move. "Say something, tough guy," Chase pushed. Jace leaned forward slightly. "You don't want that." That was it. 5 words, low and quiet, but laced with a threat that made Logan take an instinctive step back. Later that evening, Chase posted a story on his social media. A short clip of Jace walking past the gym, slowed down and set to clown music. And the Yeet caption read, "Campus Ninja Sighting. Must be lost." The video got a few laughs, a handful of shares, but it didn't go viral like he expected. If anything, it made people uncomfortable. Something about mocking someone so composed, so unbothered, felt wrong. Not because Jace was popular, but because there was something inhuman about how unaffected he remained. Tuesday afternoon, a note appeared in Chase's locker. No name, no signature. Just 5 words, scrawled in small, even handwriting. "Meet me behind the gym." No time, no threat. Just that. Chase stared at it, the paper curling at the edges in his damp fingers. For a moment, he considered tossing it, but something told him not to ignore it. Maybe it was ego. Maybe it was fear disguised as confidence. Either way, he texted Logan and told him not to come. This was something he wanted to handle himself. That night, Chase slipped out of his dorm and made his way across campus. The air was sharp, moonlight broken by the tall oaks lining the back path. Behind the gym, shadows stretched long and silent across the pavement. The floodlight flickered weakly overhead, barely illuminating the worn concrete court. Jace stood there, waiting. No phone, no hoodie, just a black long-sleeve shirt, hands behind his back, eyes locked on Chase the moment he rounded the corner. Chase slowed his steps, uncertainty pooling in his chest. He hadn't prepared for this version of Jace, alert, upright, coiled like a wire. "What is this?" Chase asked, forcing a laugh. Jace didn't blink. "You wanted a reaction. Now you have it." "You trying to scare me?" "No," Jace said. "I'm giving you a choice." Chase hesitated, confusion cutting through his bravado. "Choice? For what?" "To stop now. Or find out what happens when you don't." Silence stretched between them. No sound but the wind in the trees. And for the first time in years, Chase couldn't think of a single word to say. The wind cut sharper behind the gym, sweeping leaves across the cracked pavement. Chase stood under the flickering light, his breath visible in the night air, his hands curled into loose fists, though his nerves were screaming otherwise. Jace didn't move. He stood still, shoulders squared, gaze unwavering, as if waiting for something to drop. Not fists, but masks. Chase laughed, dry and hollow. "You act like this is some showdown," he said, voice louder than necessary, meant to mask the tremor in his chest. "You're just a scared little transfer trying to act hard." Jace tilted his head slightly, no humor in his eyes. "I told you, this isn't about acting. You've been pushing, hoping I'd crack. You finally got what you wanted." Chase scoffed, took a step forward. "And what now? You gonna swing? Try to impress someone?" "No," Jace said, voice low and steady. "I'm going to remind you why some people stay quiet." The distance between them vanished in an instant. Jace moved, not rushed, not flailing, but with precise, frightening control. His palm struck Chase's chest with enough force to send him stumbling back, balance lost before the fight had even begun. Chase caught himself, eyes wide. What the hell was that? A blur. That's what it felt like. One moment, Jace was standing still. The haiku. Next, he was a storm, silent, precise, deadly. Chase lunged, driven more by instinct than skill, arms swinging in a wide, untrained arc. Jace ducked, twisted, stepped inside the swing, and delivered a short elbow to the ribs. Air rushed from Chase's lungs. He staggered, coughing, eyes watering. "You wanted this," Jace said, circling him. "So let's finish it." Another swing. Sloppy, fueled by rage. Jace didn't block it. He avoided it completely, slipping sideways, one step ahead. He grabbed Chase's wrist mid-swing, twisted it outward, and shoved him to the ground. Chase hit hard, palms scraping on the pavement. Pain bloomed, hot and immediate. He rolled over, trying to rise, but Jace was already there. Not throwing punches, not kicking, just standing over him. "This is what you've built yourself on," Jace said. "Fear, humiliation, control." Chase spat blood onto the ground and glared upward. "You think you're better than me?" "No," Jace answered. "I just stopped pretending." Chase pushed himself up again and charged, yelling this time, throwing everything he had. Jace didn't step back. He stepped into the chaos, deflecting the first wild blow with his forearm, catching the second at the elbow, and using Chase's momentum against him. He flipped him, not with brute force, but with perfect leverage, onto the cold cement. Tee-tee. Sound of the fall echoed. Chase didn't move. For a few seconds, there was only the wind and Jace's breath, steady, unbroken, controlled. Then he crouched beside the fallen figure. "You think fighting makes you powerful," he said, not angry, not proud, but it's knowing when not to destroy someone that takes real strength. Chase groaned, his face smeared with dirt, confusion flickering behind his swollen eyes. "Why didn't you finish it?" he muttered. "Because I have already won," Jace said. "Not against you. Against the part of me that used to enjoy this." Footsteps echoed suddenly, fast, hesitant. Logan appeared from the corner, phone in hand, face pale. He'd followed from a distance, unsure whether to help or record. He didn't expect to see Chase on the ground, bleeding and breathless. Jace rose slowly. His shirt was unwrinkled, not a bruise on his face. He turned toward Logan. "No need to post it," he said quietly. "He's already embarrassed enough." Logan swallowed, shame crawling up his neck. He lowered the phone. Jace walked away without another word. Past the rusted bleachers, across the parking lot, toward the path that led uphill to the old library. His steps were measured, posture relaxed, as if the whole thing had been an exercise instead of a confrontation. The light behind him flickered once more and finally went out. Later that night, Chase sat in his dorm with an ice pack against his jaw, eyes fixed on nothing. Logan sat nearby, not speaking. The silence was thicker now, weighted with something neither of them could explain. Not just defeat. Exposure. They had tried to break a stranger for sport, and instead, they had met someone far more prepared, far more dangerous, and far more composed than they ever imagined. On the other side of campus, Jace stood on the rooftop of his dorm building. The city stretched out in the distance, lights shimmering through the misty air. Mr. Alvarez appeared beside him, stepping out of the access door with a quiet nod. "You handled it." "I gave him a choice," Jace said. "He made his." Alvarez looked at the bruises on Jace's knuckles and gave a small sigh. "You could have hurt him worse. I didn't want to." "You wanted to," Alvarez replied, "but you didn't. That's what matters." Jace nodded slowly. The wind tugged at his sleeves. "This place isn't like where I'm from," he murmured. "No," Alvarez said, "but some lessons follow you everywhere." They stood there in silence, watching the city breathe beneath them, neither one needing to say anything more. The university courtyard buzzed with its usual rhythm. Students drifted from class to class, voices rising in bursts of laughter, shoes clicking on brick walkways, backpacks slung over tired shoulders. The world had moved on, but for Chase, everything had shifted. He hadn't been back to the gym since that night. His ego, once inflated and untouchable, now felt like cracked glass, reflective but fragile. Conversations changed when he entered. Rooms. Friends who once looked up to him started avoiding eye contact, unsure how to deal with someone who had been publicly humbled. There were no jokes now, no chance of "chase the champ." Just silence, awkward nods, and the occasional glance that said, "You had it coming." For the first time, Chase started listening. To others, to himself, to the way people looked when they were being overlooked. He noticed the girl in his lit class who never raised her hand, but always wrote brilliant notes in the margins. He helped a freshman carry her bike after the chain broke near the science wing. He didn't do these things to fix his image. He wasn't sure why he did them at all. Logan asked him once, sitting on a bench outside the cafeteria, "What's your deal, man? You've been acting different. Chase thought for a moment, eyes watching the wind toy with the flag near the admin building. I think I finally met someone who didn't care who I pretended to be, he replied. On the other side of campus, Jace had settled into a rhythm of his own. He remained reserved, avoiding unnecessary attention. He sat alone in lectures, walked with purpose, and disappeared the moment classes ended. But something subtle had changed. The intensity in his eyes had softened, just slightly, as if the internal weight he carried had shifted position. Not gone, but better balanced. Professor Lin had taken notice. After class one day, she pulled Jace aside. "You write like someone twice your age," she told him. "But your essays read like you're hiding something behind every sentence." "I write to understand, not to impress," he said. "Maybe," she replied, "but don't be afraid to let people see you. You're not made of glass." Jace didn't answer. He just nodded, tucked his folder under his arm, and left. It wasn't until midterms that Jace and Chase crossed paths again, accidentally, in the hallway outside the economics lecture. Chase had turned the corner too fast, nearly bumping into him. For a moment, neither said anything. "You good?" Chase asked, voice careful, no arrogance this time. Jace gave a short nod. "You?" Chase shrugged. "Working on it." There was no handshake, no dramatic apology, just two young men who had survived an unspoken war, recognizing something quietly in each other. Not forgiveness, something more honest. Acknowledgement. Later that week, Alvarez met Jace in the off-campus dojo, where he sometimes trained after dark. The mats were worn, the mirrors smudged, the air carrying the sharp scent of sweat and leather. "You've been calm lately," Alvarez said, tossing a towel onto the bench. Jace adjusted the wraps on his hands. "I haven't had to fight." "That's not what I meant." Jace glanced at him. "Then what did you mean?" "I meant your shoulders aren't carrying the same anger," Alvarez said. "You're still sharp, still focused, but the rage isn't driving you anymore." Jace didn't reply right away. He stared at his reflection in the mirror, eyes flicking between his own and the space behind him, as if expecting his past to crawl through the glass. "I didn't realize how tired I was," he said finally, "until I stopped needing to prove something every second." Alvarez clapped him on the shoulder once. "You don't owe anyone a show." That night, for the first time since he'd arrived at the university, Jace joined a study group in the library. He didn't say much, just contributed quietly, corrected a few equations, listened when someone explained a theory incorrectly, and rephrased it without making them feel small. No one treated him like a threat, just another student with sharp eyes and silent grace. At the next student seminar, Chase stood up during a discussion on ethics and power, surprising even himself. He spoke about manipulation, about peer pressure, about the cost of pride. His voice didn't shake, and when he finished, the room was silent, not out of judgment, but reflection. The professor nodded, clearly impressed. Jace watched from the back row. He didn't smile, but there was something like approval in his expression. Spring break came and went. The leaves returned to the trees, students began preparing for finals, and the cycle of college life resumed. But something had changed beneath the surface. Not dramatically, just enough. Jace walked past a group near the quad and caught a stray comment. "Isn't that the guy who took out Chase?" "No," someone else said. "That's the guy who doesn't mess around." The rumors never completely stopped, but Jace didn't mind. Let them talk. He had come to the university carrying ghosts. Now they walked behind him instead of inside him. In the campus gym, late one evening, Chase was shooting hoops alone. The ball bounced with rhythmic consistency, echoing through the rafters. Jace stepped in quietly, picked up a ball from the rack, and, without a word, took a shot from the corner. It landed clean. They played. No trash talk, no keeping score. Just movement, sweat, breath, and mutual respect. It was never about winning. It was about who they were when no one was watching, and, this time, neither of them felt the need to look over their shoulder.